Shanna Forrestall here with Not Just Small Talk, and today my guest is Ryan Hetrick of Restoring Balance Autism. He is a brain trauma specialist. He's been working with young people on the spectrum for quite a while, and he has a lot of insider knowledge, and I can't wait for you to hear from him. Ryan and I are actually working on a project together. We're going to talk more about that today as well, but get yourself ready because autism is a big issue that our country needs to deal with today, and Ryan has some insight on the road to autism recovery. I can't wait for you to hear from him. I'll be right back. Hi, Shanna Forrestall here with Not Just Small Talk. My guest today, as I said earlier, is Ryan Hetrick with Restoring Balance Autism. Ryan, thank you so much for being here to talk to me today.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Shanna. It's always great to be able to share this.
We are so excited. Ryan and I have been working on a project together, which we're going to talk about a little bit further in, but I wanted to start just orienting people about autism, Ryan. Some people don't even know the depth of the problem right now. Let's talk autism numbers. What's happening in the U.S. right now?
You know, right now there's an autism epidemic, and it's not really talked about too much that the numbers are still growing at an exponential rate. You know, it depends on who you talk to of what the real numbers are, which is also part of the issue. You know, the CDC says it's 1 in 59, but there's been some more recent surveys done by parents because the CDC's numbers are a little bit dated. They're from 8-year-olds born in like 2008, you know, and here it was shown to be 1 in 36.
Jeez.
So it's still going up at this exponential rate. Nobody's really figured out any causes. And right now, there's some scientists that are estimating that at this current growth pattern, by 2035, we could be at 1 in 2 or 1 in 3, which is just insane to think about.
Yes, absolutely. And I mean, and what's crazy is people don't know the numbers are that high. And if they're not directly affected, they don't realize how many parents, how many families, how many incomes, how much is being affected by the autism epidemic, because it's an epidemic that's happening in our country right now. Let's talk about the impact a little bit, Ryan. What do you see? Because you're in the field, you're working with children on the spectrum, young people on the spectrum. What do you see as the impact on families and communities when these autism numbers go through the roof like they are?
It has become a tremendous emotional, financial, and economical burden on society. I mean, a lot of these young men and women, mostly men, you know, do not end up in the workforce. And also at the same time, you know, being taken care of through all these years, I think the estimate now is autism costs $2.5 to $3.5 million for one person in their lifetime to take care of. And so just financially as a society, we really can't afford to do this. But, you know, there's also these other neurodevelopmental numbers like ADHD that is sort of like a comorbid thing with autism, and all these neurological things are going sort of off the charts at the same exponential rates, and no one's asking, like, what's going to happen to the future of our kids? Are we going to have enough people to fill all these positions in the workforce? And then also, who's going to take care of them? Because a lot of them are just starting to turn into adulthood now. So they say there's sort of this like autism tsunami that's been headed our way. And now we're really starting to feel it because with these rates, you know, you can ask pretty much anybody and they know someone nowadays, whereas 30 years ago, 20 years ago, even that was not the case.
Absolutely. And let's start our conversation on this talking about autism recovery, because I know some people get really antsy when I even say the word autism recovery. And there are some people that kind of cling to the diagnosis, or they think that the diagnosis is how do I say it? You know, the diagnosis is part of who someone is. And then when I say autism recovery, they think, oh, well, you're trying to change someone, or you're trying to belittle them, or act like this is a bad thing or something. Explain autism recovery to me. What does that mean to you? Because I know we've had some pushback from that, and I want them to hear from you. What does that mean?
Yeah, so I think, you know, there's a lot of uncertainty surrounding this. I mean, if we don't even know where and why it's coming from, then it's just interesting of what people get attached to. But I mean, long story short, recovery is just about more functionality. We talk about autism in terms of symptoms, like having trouble with social interaction. And, 1/3 of the population has barely any language or is like nonverbal. And so with these, we talk about them regaining language and regaining social connection. And like Dr. Clark says, it doesn't mean that they're exactly like whatever, so-and-so's kid down the street or whatever. But it's just about them regaining their abilities, because I've started to understand in the behavioral field, it was that my paradigm was shifted, that this wasn't a behavioral thing. This wasn't a psychological thing. It was these medical conditions that were causing behavioral symptoms. And I think, most people just aren't aware of that. And if you were told, these digestive issues, these autoimmune issues, this inflammation in your brain, this lymphatic challenge backing up your cerebral spinal fluid, all these medical conditions, if somebody said, this person has this, you would want them to be alleviated from those conditions so that they felt better. And
right.
When those medical challenges are dealt with, then behavior improves dramatically. And a lot of these kids have, the word recovery comes from that they don't meet the diagnosis anymore. They go back to the physician and stuff, and they don't meet the autism diagnosis anymore. And so it's not that they're fighting to remove that label or get that label or whatever. It's just they're looking to improve. It's a gradual scale. And I think when you're in the process of recovery, it also takes time. This isn't something where it's like, you do a treatment for like 90 days or even a year and like you're done. No, this is like lifestyle change. This is going to go on through adulthood.
Wow. So you're saying that this is not a genetic issue, that this is a medical issue that these people are dealing with, and that by addressing the medical issue, we can improve quality of life, we can improve functionality, skills, and they can actually become a better version of themselves. We're not trying to change people or take away from them. We're trying to make them the best that they can be, the best functioning person they can be, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that a lot of autism has gotten to be this discriminating word because people don't think that there's this capability. So I think when you say the word recovery, people get a little bit upset that you may be questioning their already baseline functionality of how they're doing, how they're feeling today. There's a mom, Marsha Hines, and I like her book title. It says, I Know You're in There. And I've always assumed competence, even in my cases that were nonverbal, barely verbal. I always assume that they get what I'm saying, and I try never to talk down to them or talk about them in front of them, kind of thing, and because I know that they get it. And so I get that there's some families that might feel some resistance to that, and I know it's also like some families might feel some guilt because they found out that now their family's doing something that they thought they could have done before, and they think that maybe they missed the window, or that it's too hard or it's impossible for them now, and it's sort of like a defense mechanism too, I think.
Right. So what I love about the work that you're doing, Ryan, and the reason I've gotten involved with what Ryan is doing is Ryan has kind of found some things that are working. He works with young people on the spectrum, and he found that addressing the medical issues were helping these young people on the spectrum to have improvements in communication, Ryan, and understanding, in functionality, overall functionality, right?
Yeah.
And then that led you on a journey to say, okay, well, what is working? And then you've been doing this, working on a documentary that's going to help share these ideas of what can work with parents and people across this nation, right? So tell us a little bit about that. So the documentary is called Restoring Balance. And Ryan, tell us what you've been working on.
Restoring Balance, Autism Recovery is this great summary of everyday lives of parents who went through it. There's before and after footage of their children throughout the years. There's doctors explaining why all this is happening, explaining that it's basically new discoveries. There's animation showing what's happening in the body on a basic level, everything from our microbiome to brain inflammation. And, talk about paradigm shifting. I mean, there's several things in this movie that are brand new information, and that's why I think we have to shift our perspective. Not only does the medical world have to change their perspective, but that's why the autism world will also have to change their perspective. And I think that when people see the summary of all this information together, in my experience in our screenings before, people have said this is why others have to see it, because there's no doubt after you see this that there's something more to autism than just this behavioral diagnosis or whatever. And especially that they now see how much diet, lifestyle, toxins, and, controlling inflammation has on it.
And that's what I love about the documentary and what you're doing, Ryan, is that you're presenting facts. You're helping us to understand what is actually happening in the body, and then look at the ways that we can help the body to improve or to heal or to change and get better. And you're seeing direct results. You're chronicling direct results of families having a great experience and seeing improvement, seeing change, and some of them even full recovery.
Yeah, it's the stories. I mean, this is what has pushed me to keep going with this and finish it. But you come through these stories that just make you cry so often. One of my favorites, and I say it because there's always these naysayers of, oh, is it too late for my kid?
Right.
But I always love to retell the story of Robin Millan and Anne, her mother from Florida. Anne wasn't able to treat Robin biomedically until she was 28 years old. At that point, Robin only had like 2 to 6 word sentences, phrases mostly. She had self-injurious behavior and screaming fits. She ended up in the doctor's office in like a fetal position, not even engaging with the doctor at all. And, and he said that it wasn't too late. And I mean, years later, she got her driver's license.
It's amazing.
She became a full-time cashier. She has a boyfriend of, I think, 10 years. She lives in her own condo. She's off of Social Security disability. And like Anne says, she's her own person. I mean, she's living her life.
That's amazing. So what the documentary does, guys, is it just points out that this is a medical condition, that there is illness, there is sickness, there are things going on in the body that if they're addressed can be improved. And if that happens, then the level of functioning every day can improve. Ryan is seeing children go from nonverbal to verbal. Children who've never been able to say, I love you to a parent can all of a sudden speak and communicate. So there is good news out there, and that's what makes me so happy. I have several friends who have children on the spectrum, and this makes me so happy because I see the struggle, the daily struggle of a mom who has a child who's 5 and he's in diapers because he hasn't progressed past that. But there is hope, and that is not the end of the story. These people can be given help and addressed directly and see a better quality of life. And I love, Ryan, what you're doing. How do people connect? Because you have a Facebook page, right, for the Restoring Balance Project.
Yeah, if you check out restoringbalanceautism.com or Restoring Balance Autism Recovery on Facebook, we have a community on there of, great mothers and other professionals who post, and then we try to post, helpful things for families along the way, updates of what's happening in the community from like the biomedical perspective, but really this is also going to be about getting screenings out nationwide soon and keeping that network connected, because I think also this network of like mothers and doctors, when they are all together, there's this synergy and people help each other out and answer questions and provide support when others need it. Because like I said, this is like a lifestyle change. It's not just something like you're going to do in even a year.
Right. So I would encourage anybody that is being affected by a person who's on the spectrum, if you have a child who's on the spectrum, a friend who has a child on the spectrum, if you're on the spectrum, reach out to the autism community, reach out to the Restoring Balance community, get on the Facebook page, get on the website, become part of this community he's talking about that's sharing information, data, ideas, new technology, things that are coming out. They're talking there and they're sharing experiences that we can all learn from. Also, follow the documentary's journey, because the documentary is almost done. And we're at a place where they need a little funding to get it finished, but it's very close to being finished. And you can be a part of that. You can follow the documentary. You can donate to it. You can watch video clips. You can find out when screenings are going to be in your area and actually see the film or buy the film, hopefully when it becomes out on wherever outlets it comes out on, Netflix or whatever. So guys, connect to Ryan, connect to what he's doing, and share this information with people who need to hear, because it's important. It's important to all of us that this autism crisis is dealt with and that it's done with hope, and that we share the knowledge and the growth that people like Ryan are coming forward with. Thank you so much, Ryan, for talking to me today. I appreciate it. I know you're busy.
Thank you so much, Shanna. It's really important to get the word out. Like I said before, we need this exponential knowledge coming out of this change because there's this exponential growth that we're going to have to solve real soon.
Right. Thank you so much, Ryan. Again, this is Shanna Forrestall with Not Just Small Talk, and be sure you find Ryan online and follow him on the road to autism recovery. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye. Have a good day.